All right, hello everyone. This is Josh, also known as Yashu. Just tuning into another episode of the TLOY Talks podcast. You can get this on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Buzzsprout, much more. We're definitely gonna get it like started right here, but like also check out the Patreon as well too. Check out the different tiers that we have. Like you can get exclusive content from there, and yeah, like definitely support like if you can, And I'm just gonna get it like started right here in a bit, So basically, we have like probably like one of the most like unique creative souls like that I've like met like within the past like couple months and all that too. I think just from seeing like seeing their stuff on like social media and like seeing like what they post, it's like very interesting too with the reels and like just checking out their music from there too. And we have Jenn in the building. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Like I was like checking in, like like usually, like as I said, like I think before the podcast too, like usually I check a lot of people like who I see like on my algorithm and all that too, like who I follow, who like follow me and all that too, and like sometimes too, like sometimes I do my research accordingly and like find people that might have like an interesting story, and like from seeing like your stuff and all that too, and like checking out like your music for a bit too, and like just seeing like your content talking about spirituality and like everything else too. It's definitely like interesting to see and all that too, and like knowing like how the music's like so connected from there, and like how you talked about like astrology, astronomy for a bit too, and it was just something that I wanted to do for a bit too. So it's dope to have you on and all that.
Sweet. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I want to like get more into your story for a bit too. So where did you grow up, and what was like the environment like for you growing up? Would you say it was a good experience growing up there?
I guess like my upbringing wasn't terrible, I want to say, but like it wasn't perfect. Like there was a lot of ups and there was a lot of downs, struggles as anyone would. I grew up downtown Richmond Street
Okay.
at 800 Richmond to be
All right.
exact. I went to St. Mary's originally when I was in elementary school. Then I went to St. Helens for about 6 or 7 months, and then I moved all the way to Markham by the time I was like 13. So like I moved around a lot, so it wasn't super easy kind of adjusting. I was already like a kid who was weird and such. My mom was a single parent, so I didn't really have a dad or any regular lifestyle. I had like a babysitter who like
Okay.
lived with us, babysitter slash like one of my mom's friends, and they basically took care of me. I learned Spanish from them, just kind of like brainstorming my like childhood in a
All right.
nutshell. Um, and everyone kind of bullied me for having like they called it like two moms and stuff, and yeah, it was a fun time. Not the most perfect. I started singing and stuff, just kind of like I don't know. I would listen to music and I would sing along, or I really liked Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera as a kid. I was really influenced by pop back in the day, and then we reach 13 and 14, and we get more influenced by like Linkin Park and Billy Talent and the Foo Fighters and all those kinds of influences like Red Hot Chili Peppers and stuff, and just continuing on going into high school and like learning and kind of talking about music, especially when you come from like an emo scene
All right.
background, a more
Yeah.
alternative
Yeah.
background. Music was very much how we categorized ourselves and how we kind of like tribalized ourselves. It was
All
just like,
right.
oh, what do you listen to? What bands you listen to? You're gonna hang out with these people. Oh, what bands or what kind of genre do they make? You're gonna hang out with these people. So
Yeah.
music kind of influenced kind of like my identity kind of in a sense. But
Yeah.
I never wanted to kind of be boxed in. I hated that. I hated having to like only identify with one style of music. So as a kid from growing up, I just was always had a problem with authority.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like I actually grew up in downtown for like the most part of my life too. Like I still like live in downtown now, and like I know like how downtown has like changed from being an epitome of like the music scene to just being corporate like threshold for a bit too. Like I remember like HMB was like there too, and
Hmm.
like I know like they still have like the Rex and all that too, and like a lot of like other spots like where you can like listen to music. And I know like Richmond Street used to be like a big place for like nightclubs back then, like Richmond,
Hmm.
Adelaide, King West, even Peter Street too. Like they used to have like some clubs like here and there too. And then I think like what changed is like the dire need of like having condos and like people like living there too. And like I think that's like what kind of like changed the whole expression of the Toronto music scene too, because I know how people tend to value like art like throughout like the times, and if there's like no incentive for like money or like anything else too, then there's no real purpose in a sense too. It's not really about the creativity anymore. It's like, all right, like let's make a buck here and there, and all that. And I think that love only started to happen like when there was like a genuine like reaction to it, like with that like scene and like culture too. And like that was like the 80s, 90s, 70s, because like there was no rules to it. Like as you said, like no authority. You know, like you could do like whatever you want. Like there's like no like rules like barred like in that sense. So I definitely agree.
Mhm.
Even from like the start of birth until now, like would you say like music and like spirituality was like kind of like your first steps like within progression within like what you were like introduced to like in a sense?
Of like as like an outlet.
Yeah, kind of like an outlet to like from like television, from like what you see like in mediums, from connecting like with friends, like everywhere else too. So
No, yeah, music wasn't something that I super connected too often with friends. Like I had a few friends that like over my lifespan when I grew older, I had a few friends that they would play guitar and we would like write music together or sing together. So I miss those connections. A lot of the music was very folky, very I want to say grassroots. And then I had another friend who played really sick funky, like super
all right.
funky beats. And I don't know. I jive with everything. I just as long as it like sounds good, feels good, and goes with the heartbeat, I was into it. But yeah,
I know that's dope. And like as you said, like you actually like grew up like listening to like Britney Spears and like
yeah.
Christina like Aguilera and like all that type of stuff too. So
I love
um
Britney Spears.
as far as like your first CD that goes, like what was like the first CD that you ever like kind
Oh,
of
Hit Me Baby One More Time. That was the first CD I ever owned. I was 7 years old at the time when I got it.
okay. Oh, that's pretty interesting too because I think around that time I think Britney did her first performance at a mall in Scarborough.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if you went to that event that time.
Unfortunately, no. My mom wasn't one of those like, oh, well, I'm gonna bring my daughter to the mall so she can be. My mom's from immigrant. She was an immigrant when she came to Canada, so not speaking English and not really wanting to
Oh,
go
okay,
anywhere. She was
okay.
working almost 24/7, so no
Yeah.
time to take me to see Britney.
Yeah, I know what you mean too. But I mean, I think Britney and like Christina had like a very great run and all that too. And like I
Mhm.
think they're still doing their thing here and there. They have the hits and everything else too. And like if a versus like were to happen, like I definitely see that matchup like going stronger than ever, like in a sense too. So
I agree. I
yeah,
agree. I think they would have made a hit if they like were friends.
true. And to even speak about like all those like free and all that, like how did they like intertwine like with your brand, like in that sense with music, astrology, and like spirituality and all that?
Oh, well, for astrology, I'm just a very versatile human being. For astrology, I've just always been kind of introduced to astrology. My mom and her friends would first be talking about it around like the dinner table, like having their cigarettes and talking about astrology. And then I kind of got into it. She had a friend named Vodi who gave me my very first angel card deck. And from that, I started learning about like oracle decks and witchcraft and Wicca and all of that. And I was like 12 at this time. I even remember going to school and I was like telling my friends in grade 7 like, oh, I'm a witch. And I have letters at home from like everyone writing me like goodbyes when I moved schools to go to another school because my mom got a job in Markham. I remember them all telling me in like little letters like, don't tell anyone at that school you're a witch, like you're gonna get bullied and stuff, just like you're cool, we're gonna miss you.
Yeah.
So yeah, from there I learned so much about astrology just honestly from personal experience. I used to be I wouldn't say like a party girl, but I loved attending like different events and different parties. And I loved talking and getting to know people. So my first thing that I would do is always ask them their zodiac sign. Because I learned a long time ago in sales and marketing, the best way to get to know someone is to let them talk about themselves. So I'd always like find something for them to talk to you about. And my autistic self would be like, perfect, you're talking. You're letting me get to know you. And now I know how to get to know you a little bit better based on your zodiac sign. So it's just kind of like my way of balancing like the whole conversation out and understanding that
Okay.
person a little deeper.
Yeah, and I know like usually with astrology too, like they have like different like formats of signs, like a moon sign,
Hmm.
like a water sign,
Hmm.
like a law like type sign, like in that sense too.
Hmm.
So like as far as like the formats go, like how do they like differ like in that sense too? Like when it comes to like different like signs, like let's say like a Libra moon or like a
Hmm.
Libra water
Hmm.
or like a Libra sun, like in that sense and all that, or
Hmm.
like a Taurus sun or a Taurus like water and all that.
Of course. So, like, your moon is going to represent your emotions. So, whatever zodiac sign you have in your moon is going to represent your emotions. Your sun sign is like basically the month you were born and who you are, like who you are deep down is that sun sign. Your ascending is like where the sun was positioned
Okay,
on the day you were born, and that's also going to have a zodiac of its own, which is also going to be
okay,
your sign of self. Like how you look like is going to kind of look more like that zodiac sign. Then you have your Mercury, which is your planet of communication. If you ever hear everyone talking about like, oh my God, Mercury retrograde, it has to do with like, well, Mercury retrograde is actually coming up real quick, like real soon. It's in 2 weeks from now. So
okay.
you're gonna notice like technologies screw up, communications screw up, people get into more fights during Mercury retrogrades, car accidents are on a all-time high during Mercury
All right.
retrogrades. And my whole life as a kid, I just kind of noticed all these things and learned as I went and saw the patterns happening right in front of me constantly. So when people told me, oh, it's fake, I'm like, I'm watching it happen with my eyes all the time. You can't tell me it's
Yeah.
fake. I know what I see.
Yeah.
That's so Capricorn of you to say.
Nah, for sure. Do you feel like it kind of like defines like people like in a sense too? Like I know some people like will have like different signs, like even like based on like different genders, like
Mhm.
different like roles, like ages and all that too. Like I don't know if those like factors like come in between on how the personality is like and all
Oh, for
that.
sure, absolutely. Like your entire natal chart makes your entire personality.
Okay.
So, like, I'll use myself as an example because I'm actually pretty easy. I don't have a lot of planets in different places. I have 4 signs, all in Libra, including my sun sign, which I am a Libra, born in
All
October.
right.
But then we have my moon, which is in Virgo. So I'm a little bit critical, good at conversation, but a little bit critical, a little bit on the judgy side, which is already bad enough because I'm a Libra. And then we have my Venus in Leo. So how I love is very big, grandiose. I love people who love me kind of like royalty. Like
All right.
Leo's like are like I'm the center of attention. And a lot of people with Libra placements or Leo placements are kind of like star quality people.
All
So
right.
if you ever notice that you're talking to someone in music or acting, if you find out the rest of their placements, you're going to probably find either Sagittarius, you're going to find Leo, you're going to find Libra or Scorpio.
Okay.
These placements are very artistic, especially either in music, rap music, dark music. It's just it's their artistic ability. Oh, same with Taurus as well, also ruled by Venus. Venus is just a planet of artistic, but then we have all these other zodiac signs that just have these sensual bits to them that add to that artistic scene.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty interesting too, and we'll definitely like dive deep like more into
I
that
know
like
I
later
could go
on.
on, but
Yeah. To speak more on like a musical like background like
mm.
and history, like what was that like, and what inspired you to take it seriously like during that time?
Oh gosh, I don't think I ever ended up taking it seriously. People just kept pushing me. Like I had a boss last year that at the church I worked in that really believed in me. He kind of like went behind my back and stalked me a little bit and found all my music and was like he made me sign a contract that was like telling me to work really hard on my music and release music in like 2 months. And I was like, bro, I'm broke. I just got this job to like work this job. I'm working like 6 days a week. Can you relax? And it kind of got a little bit much. So I didn't kind of threw me off because I don't really want to do music where someone's forcing me to do it. I find music fun. Like I love making music. When my best songs on my SoundCloud are all when I'm just sitting there and I'm listening to it and I'm like, ooh, this is good. I'm gonna add this. Oh, and then I'm just grooving. That's the best part about music, making
Yeah.
music for me is I'm just having fun. So I never really took it seriously. I would like to work with people that are better than me at producing, definitely by far.
Okay.
I just haven't had the best experience with the right people. And nowadays I'm just kind of like, oh, maybe I should just work by myself.
Yeah, no, that's facts. Do you ever feel like releasing music on SoundCloud like brought more for happiness than like releasing it on like DSPs like
Mm.
Spotify or like Apple Music and all that?
Yeah, on Spotify, I feel like there's like another level. I just don't feel like I'm absolutely like there yet. But recently, I have heard music on Spotify that sounds similar to mine. I'm like, oh,
Okay.
so people of my level and experience can post on there. So I started to post on there. And but no, it's like what you said. It's like I do find that it's a different level. I feel like I'm competing with people that sound way, 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 way better than me. And then I have my friends who they say they're your friends, but like no one in Toronto really supports you. You know what I mean? Like you can have a few hits that are actually good, but like your true friends won't even like it on your story, for example.
Yeah.
So it's these things I noticed. Toronto's just kind of like a little snaky when it comes to music in the industry, and like people don't want to see you win. People, for the most part, want to see you lose. It's the strangers that love you the most. It's your closest fam that hates you.
Yeah, no, that's facts. Nah, like I definitely understand too, and I feel like it is like based on connectivity and like like rising to the
Mm.
top in that sense too. Because I feel like when people like try to compete for the top two, like they see it as like like I could make it, I could like work for other people and then like shit on the others too. Like
Yeah.
I was actually at the film festival just like earlier on today and all that. So basically for people who aren't like watching and all that too, I was at the Toronto International Music Video Festival that just happened within the second day and the first day as well too. So today's like the second day. So basically, one of the people that said something was basically when a Toronto artist or like a Canadian artist like signs to like a record label and all that too. So basically, they'll like ditch out like the people who are like Canadian and like work with an American director,
Hmm.
American like videographer, like in that sense too, and only work specifically with people from like LA and all that too. And like
Mhm.
it is like interesting to see like how that change can drift and like how people can like switch up on like day ones like that as well too.
Oh,
So
for sure. I see it all the time. You think people are, your fam, and then you get somewhere, you start to make music, and you think that they support you. They supported you more when you were soft,
yeah.
when you had nothing good, when you weren't like as good as you maybe are now, or as developed as you are now. Now they really don't want to support you, because if they do support you, you just might go somewhere. So
Yeah.
So for me, I don't know. I'm a little bit sensitive. So for that, I
Yeah.
was private for a lot of the time in regards to my music. I only just recently started going public about it, because I don't know. I stopped caring a little bit.
Yeah. I know what you mean too. Have you ever had like any good interactions with anyone like in the Toronto music scene in that sense?
You know what? I don't go to a lot of music scene like events and stuff. The times that I have met people in the music scene, uh, yeah, they don't like. I tell them that I make music. I show them that I make music, but they don't really like invite you to places. It's really all about who you know at the end of the day. Super nice, super sweet, but like people are weird here.
Yeah, no, that's facts. And I've had like many people that have had like these conversations too on like the Screwface Capital and like people only working with other cliques and all that too. Like there's no like
Mhm.
interconnectivity and all that too. And
Mhm.
like, do you ever feel that there should be some changes in the direction of where the scene should go to, or do you feel like there it's just gonna be stagnant as it is, like in that sense too, like no growth or anything like that?
I mean, I hope there's a little bit of growth. I do see that the younger generations are a little bit more inclusive nowadays. Like they want different sounds, they want different people at their events. They actually want to be around others rather versus like all the older people like myself. Like I'm 33 now. A lot of like my generation. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so stuffy. A lot of the people from my generation are just really cold and a little shallow and a little narcissistic. And a lot of them will act like they're everybody's friend, but then they really just only care about themselves, for example. And then they'll have like they'll have their yes mans. If they don't have their yes mans, they don't want anyone else around them. And it's the same thing with their yes mans. Their yes mans only want to collect more yes mans. Otherwise, they don't want them around like their posse. So no, I have noticed a lot of that, too much of it, but not. And I think it might change. I hope it might change eventually.
All right.
I have seen a lot of like rap battle like events nowadays that are being like really open to different kinds of
Okay.
musicians going, and like you just go up there and you just rhyme. You can either just rhyme something with a melody, or you can actually rap. So I like that kind of genre difference and playfulness of that's how music should be. It should just be just like playful. It should be a game. I don't know.
That's facts. And I just have a couple questions like to speak more like on the music. So your stage name's also social like at one point too. So what
The
was like that?
truest and the realest in the game.
That's facts. So what was like the backstory behind it?
The backstory behind it, I was just like thinking of a name for myself. Something that was short, something that was easy. Everyone knows me as Jenn. And then I just figured, you know what, so trill. Because I was always saying that is like, just anyone said something like, oh, what are you doing? Or what are you saying? I'm just like, I'm trilling, dog. Oh, I'm so trill today. Like, just trilling. And then eventually I was just like, oh, you know what? The truest and the realest in the game. Yeah, you know what? We'll just call it Jen's So Trill.
Okay.
Jen, and then it's supposed to be Jen's So Trill. So that's why it's just,
Okay.
it's words, letters, autism.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's facts. And I mean, you've had like other songs too, like In or Out, like which is also like Answer, and then Sanity is like temporary too. So like, what was like that whole like creative process and inspiration like?
Oh, for sure. Sanity is Temporary is old. That song I made when I was like 21, 22. I found a really good beat by DJ West something. Oh God, I don't remember. But I found the beat, really loved it. Started kind of like melodizing, singing a melody to it, and then it just went from there. Started recording some lyrics to it, and that's actually a re-recording, a remix that I made for it. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. And I mean, we're gonna dive on to like the whole idea of like astrology, spirituality, and much more too. Just bear with me, like in that sense too. So to even speak on like some ideas that I have and all that too. So, in your opinion, do you ever feel like should everyone like on the planet be striving towards like a common goal? And if so, like what should that be like in that sense?
Everyone's gonna strive for a common goal. I feel like that common goal is just to focus on yourself, try to find calm, try to find resolve and ease. Let go of what you can't control, because it's only going to bring you more stress, and stress brings wrinkles, and no one wants those.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, because I know like nowadays too. I mean, with people like striving for the idea of like making it like within like capitalism, like making it like within that top tier, like the 1% versus like the 99% too. Because I think like nowadays too, there's like people like that see like the economy, like the news and all that too. They see that, you know, you can't afford like a home, like in this like day and age too. They can't afford a car. They can't pay like their bills. They can't be free of like all debt too. So
Oh, don't get me
they,
started on politics. I will go off. I'm an anti-government. I'm an anarchist till the day I die. I'm not one of those fake emo posers who is like, I hate the government at 15. No, I'm 33 and I still hate the government. Can't stand them. We need less of them, to be honest. So
do you feel like a world without like the government or like any sort of like leadership like would be beneficial like in society
I
and
don't
all
think
that?
the world would be necessarily better without leadership, but we do need people who don't feel like wealth makes them exempt from being judged as a human being. I don't feel like a bunch of billionaires should be allowed to make a decision for the entirety of the world because
Yeah.
realistically, you could be a billionaire, but you could also be inbred, right? You could also have brain damage of some
Yeah.
sort. So why should we be giving the inbred brain damaged one the power to make decisions?
Yeah.
That's like giving Joffrey from what was it, Game of Thrones, the ability to like rule the entire world. We don't want it. We don't need
Yeah.
it. So rich people are just as stupid as poor people.
Yeah, no,
So
that's facts. Yeah, because I know, like in some cases too, there have been like books and like other examples, like Animal Farm and
mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm.
1985 that
In
do
1984, yeah.
well that do give like good examples of like how
Mm-hmm,
like leadership should be within like different perspectives too,
mm-hmm.
like on tier systems and that aspect of Big Brother too and all that too. But there are like pros and cons to it, as opposed to seeing like other like benefits too, like where if it's like a totalitarianism society, or if it's like, you know, more based on like tiers and all that too, like the idea of like respect and like culpability, like in that sense too, like do we look at that people with the same respect as others?
Yeah. Have you
With
seen the movie Platform 2?
I think I've seen the first platform movie on Netflix too, where like I know it like hinges down like on the idea of like food and all that, and like they lower it down for like different tiers and all that, and like, you know, it's like a first come first serve type thing and all that. Like everyone else eats in that sense too. So
Perfect. So Platform 2 is the prequel of it. You could basically now watch either or and you're watching the whole thing. But basically how you described it, Platform 2 describes society in the most artistic chef's kiss way. Exactly what you said. Society is on different fucking platforms. Whoever is on the highest gets the most food, gets the most wealth.
Yeah.
So if you're on that high tier in society, you're going to get more. But if you're on the lowest tier in society, you're going to get less, you're going to starve, you're probably going to die. In Platform 2, spoiler alert, they start to make the rules. As you saw in the first platform, you know how they had the rules of like, oh, respect people, like only eat, like when they finally figure out to only eat their dish, not everyone else's food. In that aspect of society, we have a group of people who decide to be like the rule makers, but the rule makers become drunk with power.
Yeah.
What do they start doing? They start to harm all the other people on different platforms. So if you become a food stealer, they'll come down from their tiers to come bring judgment onto you. And judgment onto you is basically offing you, throwing you down the hole until you reach the very bottom floor, until they finally figure out that the whole concept of society is to help one another. Yes, everyone has their own dishes. However, not everyone can eat mangoes for 30 days. People will die.
Yeah.
We all need to communicate like they had in the line of each, like the line of communication to each floor, where we communicate with each other and we actually see each other's side and say, okay, today I'm not going to have my mangoes. Is it okay if today I have your chicken wings and you can have my mangoes? And then every day everyone can switch different foods, and you finally kind of see that poetic side of how detrimental it is to be in power, because even those in power think that they're doing good end up doing evil. It's always that paradox of society and the pendulum swinging back and forth and back and forth, and how power is interpreted. Ultimately, I just don't feel anyone should be in power because of that. But if we had communication, if people saw each other fairly, we'd be fine. And not in a socialist kind of like Marxist kind of way, but like in a way where we're all helping each other and working together, not taking from one and giving to another as they would like to make us have.
Oh, that's facts. And I mean, there have been like other platforms and like channels that have expressed that thing as well too. I don't know if you've seen like a show called like Kid Nation, like back in the day too. So basically, they put like 40 kids in like a deserted like ghost town, like in like New Mexico somewhere, and basically there's like different tiers and all that too. So there's the green tier, yellow tier, red tier, blue tier, and like they're all based on like higher tiers too. So like I think like the highest is like the leaders, like the money makers, like the bourgeoisie and all that, and then you have like the merchants and like the other people as well too, and like it's like basically like how to survive a society like within like 40 days too, like in a ghost town. And like they're having like a lot of issues like in that same situation too, where like people get like the power to their heads too, like people have this like weird idea of like greed and everything else too, and then there are like those other kids that try to work out to try to like work as a community, like help out like in each and any other way to like provide like whatever's like needed. And they have like challenges as well too, where like they compete, and like if they win something, there's like two choices. Like one's like the fun stuff, which is like kind of
I
like
remember that show now.
which is like a want and all that, and like another is like a need and all that too. Like sometimes too, a good majority will pick like the needs than like the wants and all that too, based on how it could be like beneficial to whether
The
it's
whole
like
team,
yeah, pretty much. And they'll give like a star, I think, to like the one person that wins like the challenge and all that too, or like wins like the episode. And I think like there have been like pros and cons to it, like where like it has like showed kids like how to be like good leaders, how to work as a community, like knowing that if kids could do it, like adults can do it, like in the same time too.
Exactly.
Other situations, it's like, all right, you're putting kids in like a dangerous environment where there could be like wolves, there could be like other stuff and all that. Like there's no parental supervision. So, fun fact, there was no parental supervision, like no adult like supervision, like around that time too.
Exactly.
Aside from like directors and all that too. So basically, the kids had to kind of fend for themselves in that times too. So basically, there are like cons like in some cases too, and like we do have to analyze it in like different ways too, but it's all like the same like paradigm, same system that society's like teaching us to, like how can we work together like as a community, like in a sense to how can we be effective, like how can we look at like wants and needs and how to treat it like within the fair way possible and all that too. So yeah. And like even that idea of like happiness in that sense too, like what would be like the best way for a person to like attain like happiness and like in your opinion and all that?
Best way to obtain a happiness is start giving less fucks. If you don't mind me saying the F word. Start giving less fucks. They're not necessary. The less you care about things, at least things that are like out of your control, the less we care about those things, the better and happier you're going to be at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's facts. And I mean, the idea of like happiness as well too, like just to like add on to, there are like a lot of factors that do come into it. The idea of like karma, like or like having like good faith too. Like I do have like some like Christian background like in me too. So basically, the idea of like good faith is like do good unto others as they do like unto you and all that too, because like whatever like treatment you do, like it like receives back like either way, like in the word of God, or like even that idea of like karma, like good things happen like when people do good to others, like bad things happen when people do bad stuff to others and all that too. And there are like a lot of factors that come to it, like based on like environmental standards too, like how they grew up, like other factors too. So and like how they were like raised as well too. So there are like a variety of factors like that come that way in that sense. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And I feel like in order to define like happiness too, it's like, all right, like one's like idea of like happiness is like way different than like another person's like idea of happiness too. So basically that idea of happiness could be like the idea of like money and all that. Others it's like the connectivity of like family or community and all that too. Or others it's like like seeing something that might give that sense of joy to, like a dog or a pet or like a baby and all that too. And like do you ever feel like certain things can like buy like happiness too, like money can buy happiness, or like the sense of community and all that?
Honest to God, the happiest thing that I feel is when I wake up in the morning and I'm still alive. That to me is the happiest moment of my life. I'm like, oh my God, I get to breathe another day. The rest just comes. If it's a bad day, I'm happy for it. If it's a good day, I'm happy for it. Whatever happens at the end of the day, I'm happy that I got to wake up. I think what people really forget at the end of the day is how to be grateful. Gratefulness is what leads to most good things in our life. And it's like what you said about karma. It's like if you do bad towards others, karma will get you. Maybe not right away, maybe not tomorrow, but it will get you, because we all have to pay for our karma eventually. That's just the way the world works, and the pendulum and the paradox and things swinging. But yeah, ultimately, I'm just happy to what I find happy. I can't put it in one thing. I can't say like, my dog, or I can't say my cat. I can't say my mom. I just say I'm happy that I got to wake up. I'm happy that I'm alive. I'm happy I get to take a breath. I'm happy I can see. I'm happy I have 2 hands, 2 feet, a knee that still works and bends, thank God. But alas, hair on my head, teeth in my mouth,
Yeah, no, that's facts too. Because I feel like with some people too, like they look at like happiness from what they see like on a screen and all that too, because they see that idea of like Hollywood, or they see
Hmm.
that idea of what they see like what other people like wear and
Hmm.
all that too, like a watch like on their
For
hand
sure.
or like a chain and all that too, and like they see like, hey, like that person's like living like in that sense too, and like there was actually a celebrity I was like actually checking out on IG where they talked about like on an IG live where they said like the reason why they're connected with that person so much is that they showed them like how to make like $1 million like dollars like just like by themselves and all that too, like like together like in that sense too, and they feel like that's like the only person that can like lead them on like in that sense too, and like the way of like happiness too, and like I think in other perspectives that person could have made like that $1 million like on their own like either way without that person too, and like I think a lot of factors that do come onto it is like how where they see themselves in like like 5 to 10 years and all that too,
Hmm.
because happiness it's still gonna come like a long way too, like whether like you're alive like
Hmm.
breathing everything else too, or whether you have something that keeps up, like with me it's like this podcast, with you it could be like the music, or it could be like the idea of like learning something too, so it's like something that like finds like a purpose like in that sense too, in that sense, so
Absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
Me as a person, I'm all over the place. I've met teachers and therapists that are like, Jennifer, you need to focus on one thing. And now I'm realizing like I don't have to focus on one thing. I can be everything that I'm good at, everything that I like doing, because everything of those things brings me happiness.
Yeah,
So
that's facts. And to even like speak more on like intelligence as well too, do you ever feel like is like intelligence or wisdom like more useful in that sense too, or like they both have like similarities that could like be of use?
I think sometimes being wise can be a obstacle because I feel like the dumber you are, the further you can get in life. The dumber you are, the more you'll experiment, the more you'll try because you're not thinking about what could happen. You're not thinking about the downfall of something. You're just doing. You're just existing. So honestly, being wise is it's good in like in certain aspects. Like I feel like being street smart, having wisdom in life and having wisdom of how to deal with certain people and how their emotions are going to be or how to represent yourself in a way that's somewhat understanding of others' emotions because we can't, coddle everybody at the end of the day and we can't create safe spaces everywhere. I feel like growth comes from being put in uncomfortable situations. Um, so yeah, it goes back down to where was I going with this now? Please remind me.
To even like speak more on that too, I mean, the idea of like wisdom, like
Wisdom. There we go. We were
yeah.
talking about wisdom. Yeah, the idea of wisdom. Yeah, as like what I was saying, it's sometimes easier to just be dumber than to be
Yeah.
smart because then you're not worried. You're not self-critical of yourself. You're not constantly like, oh my god, what are the people gonna think? Oh my god, am I gonna hurt someone's feelings? How half the time I don't want to be worried about how it's going to make someone else feel. Half the time I don't want to think. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna fail. Jen, just do it. I'm like, oh, but I'm probably gonna fail, and no one's gonna like it, and everyone's gonna hate it, and I'm just gonna be a failure, and I just won't post.
Yeah, I know what you mean too. Yeah, and I think it's like that idea of like learning and progression too, because like like when you fail once, like try again and all that too. Like that's like
A
one of like the
Leo.
main like quotables that people use to get people to like learn again to the idea of like perseverance too. Like if you don't succeed, like try again too, and like it all comes from the perspective of like how they see like at different like trials too. So trial one could be all right, you've done it like a way that you felt like what would be good, but it didn't work out. Trial two, it's like all right, I look at like different like avenues to like how did that work in that sense too, or how should it work. So basically, if you're not going like this way, you try going another way too. It might not work, so you go back to trial free, and then
Mm,
basically it's like a whole variety of different patterns. The way like you leverage like certain stuff too, like like leveraging like your wants and needs too, like as we mentioned before too. So it's all about the idea of knowing that there's a chance you might fail, but like there's like certain ways that you could like work it out too. So I think that's how people with wisdom like get to gain more than people like with intelligence too, because I think the idea of people like with intelligence, it's like you're having a claim that all right, you have like this knowledge too, but do you know how to do it in like a variety of ways too? Like, do you know like what happens
mm,
like if you tend to fail, and like if you fail, like what are some ways that you could like try again too?
mm,
I think that's with what people with wisdom have more than people with like intelligence, like in that sense too. So
mm.
yeah.
No, I feel that. I feel that.
Yeah. And I mean, even to even add more to like you have like people like Albert Einstein too. You have people like um Robert Downey Jr. Who have talked about like their past issue, their past issues with like dyslexia and all that too, and like with like learning disabilities too, with ADHD and all that too, and like they discuss like how sometimes too it's like hard to be like to study like within their craft and all that too. So basically, what they had to do is like they tried finding like different ways in order to succeed and all that, and like find like barriers on like what could work and all that too. With Einstein, like he was like more of a creative thinker too. Like at most times too, like he'll be outside for the most part too, like looking at like different objects or different moments. Like he'll like take that in and then basically he'll write it like on a chalkboard and all that too. Like that's how like E equals like MC squared like came about to with Robert Downey Jr. It's like knowing like how many roles could like fit for him until like he could find like that perfect one too. Because like even back then he was like doing like any role for like cash and all that. And then when he landed on Iron Man, just kind of worked out too. It's like just knowing how to persevere and like how to like look at it like within different perspectives too, and like making right connections in that sense. So
for sure.
yeah. And you know the idea of like birth charts as well too. So do you ever feel like a birth chart can like evolve with like time in that sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially because we're on a planet that's spinning. We have planets above us that are constantly going in their cycles as well. So every month, every year, there's going to be a new change and a new transition. On the 19th of November this year, a very big transition is going to be taking place. It is going to be the end of an old era and the beginning of a 20-year cycle, which is going to be the Aquarius and Pluto. It's going to be the era of Aquarius. So very excited for that. It's going to be good for all the cardinal signs, myself included. Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, and Libra, they're going to finally be out of their super karma, learning lesson, junk feelings that we've been dealing with for the last 15 years. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to my money flipping around and looking good. So far, all of the things that it said that it was going to happen is happening for me. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to the future.
Oh, that's facts. Because I know with the Mercury retrograde and all that
Not
too.
looking forward to her though.
Because I know like we talked about that like earlier too, and like I think there have been like a lot of like effects that come to it, like with Trump, you know, winning the election, with a lot of people like coming home for like free and all that too, with the amount of like people passing away too, and like to even like speak more on that. Do you ever feel like that birth chart or that idea of like the whole like astrology system has like come to an effect within like these like past current situations?
Absolutely. Well, the last time that Aquarius was in Pluto, we had the French Revolution. We had the American Civil Revolution. So if you look back at astrology and you look at different things that happened during those times, and then you look at the planets, and then you start to see the patterns and the similarities and the themes that take place, there's no denying it. This has been studied for over 2,000 years. They used to use astrology to predict when to harvest, when to harvest their meals, when to be able to hunt before the frost would come. They based a lot of their hurricanes, weather patterns, all based on what they would see in the sky. And they were rarely wrong. They literally had zodiac pastors, like astrological priests that would like read the sky and tell you like what was going to happen and when it was going to rain and blah, 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 blah. They used astrology for basically ever since the creation of the telescope. Mr. Galileo one time just took out his telescope and looked up at the sky and was like, eh. And we had Copernicus too, who was really into the sky. So these are like two philosophers / like astrologers that I'm really into. They're also Freemasons, so I'm very interested in finding out about that secret society kind of aspect. I'm really into conspiracy theories. So
do you ever feel like with Trump like winning the election and all that too, do you feel like the next 4 years might have like an interesting take on like how the world like maybe shaped like in terms of like the retrogrades and like everything else going on to with the ascendings, descendings, and all that sort of stuff?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Basically, like with everything going on right now, astrologically wise, Trump was definitely. I didn't feel like he was going to win because I definitely feel like the election was stolen. I mean, there's evidence proving it, but the election was stolen in 2020. I don't care who hates me for it. That's my belief, and people can fight me outside, and I'll definitely take them down for it. But other than that, it's like it wasn't looking good for Kamala. Her chart wasn't looking good for her. You know, she got Mercury in her Scorpio right there, so she's not really a good communicator. She's kind of little, you know, you can't really trust her. Her rising is her moon is in Aries, so emotionally she's too sensitive. We can't have a Libra in office with a moon in Aries. Like, that's dangerous. Yeah. She's gonna push the red button on everybody. I ain't playing with that bitch. So the next 4 years are going to be definitely unique. It's going to be financially good for everybody. I'm not too stoked about the whole team like Elon Musk. I just know way too much about like stuff. But this information that I know about, I've been basically learning about since I was like a little kid. It was on the obscure TV shows. It's put in cartoons and video games. They've been telling us all about it throughout our entire lives, basically.
Okay. Oh, that's
I sound like I'm crazy, don't I, boys?
No, but like you did get some good facts too, and like I think something that's like very different from like how we usually have stuff like on the platform too, and like I mean one concept that I did talk about too, like within like past episodes and like past interviews too, is like the idea of like religion too. Like I did talk about the idea of like what's going on like with like Palestine and like how other people like speaking about it too, and like
I'm not going to talk about that topic. I always get in trouble.
But even that idea of like religion, do you ever feel like religion will ever become like obsolete, like in that sense too, or do
I
you?
don't think it's ever going to be obsolete. The very first Bible was discovered in Africa. It's just not the King James one. Problem is the King James Bible. It was rewritten by a fucking king who was rich. That's the problem. Wealth and power. He took the Bible, rewrote it, made it sound like, oh, you have to respect me as a king. But in reality, the real Bible said, do not place anyone above yourself. We are all gods. We are all equal. No one is supposed to have more money or more homes or more wealth than another. Everyone is supposed to have everything. No man should hold power over another. But King James caught the Bible and was like, change this, and change this, because I don't want the people revolting me. And then we have the bullshit that we have today. We look at society today and how they put down women in both religions of either Islam or Christianity. They both put down women in their own way. So in realistic reality, I don't really agree with religion of today. Do I believe in the message though? Hell yeah. Believing in something gives you something to have purpose for, because I find that a lot of people these days, when they have no purpose, they look for an identity. They look for a pronoun. They look for a group. They don't look at themselves. They don't try to get to know who they are as a person, as an individual. They try to fit in somewhere. But if you have faith, when you have faith, there is no tribe or group that you need to fit in with. It's just, are you good with God? Are you good with Jesus? Do you feel comfortable? Can you sleep at night? Do you have no guilt in your heart? Ultimately, if you can answer those questions and feel good about yourself, you're going to sleep soundly, and it's okay. If you can't answer those questions, pray on it. Drink a glass of water and pray on it.
Yeah, I see what you mean too. Like for me, coming with like a Christian faith, like in that sense too. Like I have like went to like church in the past too, and like have like examined like the Bible in that sense too. I do feel like the Bible has had like given some sense on like the idea of like forming rules and like forming like laws too. Like even when we talk about like the 10 Commandments and like the 7 deadly like sins and all that too, and the idea of like how society should be formed too, like how one must like share and all that too. Like one must like follow another, like never like idolize people too. Thou shalt not like steal. Like
don't cheat. Don't talk back to your parents.
Yeah, and like that idea of like thy rod and thy staff. Like even the idea of like swinging too. And I do feel like a lot has to like connotate with like how we should like look at like authority in that sense too. Like with some that don't have like a good sense of like respecting authority, like they might not like understand it too. But like I feel like it has like formed on how to be like good people like in society too, like how to like look out for like the elders, like for the children too, because like even when we like look at the Bible too, like they had like prioritized like looking up the elders and like looking up like the children and the women too, and then the man should be like subservient like of God, like in that sense too, to follow on like what's needed to follow like upon like faith, to not like commit like lustful acts towards like a woman that's like not like their wife and all that too, or like, and I do like agree like in that sense too. There are like some parts where I kind of understand like where it connotates from like on the disrespect of like women and like other situations too, but like that could also be justified with other formats and like how it's like redefined too, like from the Old Testament like versus like the New Testament as well too. So
for sure, no, for sure. I'm not knocking all religions. I know that they have good, sneakily sprinkled in both. I don't like anything organized. I like having people just kind of figure out life on their own, because ultimately the phone is going to be their Bible. What's going to be their Bible is going to be what's on social media. Who's their Bible? Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion. These are the people they end up worshiping. They end up worshiping people like Lil Peep or P. Diddy or Kanye West. And those aren't people that we want to worship at the end of the day. And I think that's why when we go back down to faith, I feel like people need an introduction to faith in a way that's like, this is God and this is why you have to believe in him. It should be more like, this is the concept of God. This is why people believe in this God. And this is the messages that are these are the good messages that we're going to take that he's teaching. And then these are the bad messages that a lot of us don't like that he also teaches. Do with it what you will. I feel like if people were provided stuff in like I'm autistic, I'm ADHD. Like for me, if someone gives me something and it's like on a table and it has all the little categories and stuff, and it's more organized in a way where I can literally learn and figure out like, do I like this? Okay, I like this. I'm gonna learn about this. Okay. Rather than like instead we have a bunch of people saying like, oh, Christians are this and Catholics are this way and they're so or Muslims are like this and then no one's actually just like learning. And then they'll learn from each other, and each one of them give each other propaganda. Yeah. One is going to be like, oh, don't listen to the Muslim. They're like this. Oh, don't listen to the Christian because they're like this. Yeah. And it's just a bunch of just BS at the end of the day. Yeah. I think people should just be educated and taught and given the whole picture, the whole perspective, and given a choice. I feel like that's the biggest thing about what religion doesn't provide a lot of the time. A lot of the people in charge of it don't really give what God gave all along, which is free will. And a lot of these religions aren't even doing that. They're just like, well, if you don't follow me, you're going to go to hell. That's not what God said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely understand too. And I feel like in that sense too, like the idea of like free will, like there is like kind of like, because there is like a sense of like self-control too. Like I think in the Bible, like it did say something about having like self-control, like having like the urges to understand like, all right, when it's like the right time to kind of be like of balance to of to be like of approach, because you cannot be like above like approach like on like God or like anyone else too, but like even in your own urges, like one must like control themselves like in that sense to like in order to not commit like sin. So there is like something like in that sense to but to even like end off like the whole idea of like religion too, do you ever feel like there is like a judgment day? And if so, like do you ever feel like that judgment day will be based on like what you see from like Christianity or like Islam or in any other religion?
Truth is, I don't believe that there's going to be a judgment day because the world isn't going to end. I feel like judgment day will come when the world finally ends. And I don't see the world ending. I see the end of an era. I see civilizations dying. I see buildings crumbling. I see new civilizations growing, just like we had like cavemen and all them. We're all going to just turn into dust under a mudslide, and it's just going to restart all over again. And it's going to be restarted in the image of whoever were the last survivors. So I don't really think that there's going to be a judgment day per se, but do I think that there's going to be a catastrophic time, a moment in time, even based on just looking at astrology and where things are going right now? Things are going to get fun in the next 20 years, and I'm excited. But it's not the end. That's the thing. There's still more. The planet is still turning. There's more planets and things to happen. So
yeah, that's facts. To even like speak the idea of like humans in that sense, do you ever feel like humans will last like another like 1,000 years like in that sense?
If they don't get themselves extinct, perhaps. I think what they need to do is they need to stay away from the fried food and all the dyes and the pesticides and the garbage, and they just need to, I don't even know anymore, because most of our soil is full of heavy metals and toxins that are being constantly sprayed to us in the air. I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but alas, it is true. So I don't know. If we don't get extinct, I mean, it all depends. If the government forces something down your arm again, this time, tell them, no, daddy government, and stick it in yourself instead. You heard me, daddy government. I'm looking at you, breaking the fourth wall.
Okay. I see what you mean too. And like I know because like initially Y2K was actually supposed to be like the end of the world like in that sense too.
Yeah, I was 10 when that happened.
But humans like actually like managed to survive at that time too. They even said the same thing for like 2012 too. So I do feel like there's a chance that we could like live up to the year 3000, 4000 like in that sense too. Even like,
well, we won't. We'll be dead, honey.
Yeah.
It'll be a long time
us, but like
unless they cut our heads and put them in jars and like how Futurama they have them people alive like that.
Yeah. But like the idea of like humans like in that sense, because I feel like the idea of like human reproduction, like everything else, it's still like a constant thing. There are people that are still trying to have kids, that are still trying to like create like a lineage in that sense too. So the idea of human creativity and like the aspect of technology, like that's still gonna be like a thing like regardless too. Like
I don't know. The more technology gets better, the stupider people become. That's just what I'm noticing. The more advanced things become, the more lazy people are. Look at ChatGPT. Remember when we used to get in trouble in school for plagiarism? Now you just got ChatGPT. Yeah. Isn't that plagiarism?
Yeah.
Oh, and AI did it, so it's not really plagiarism. Yes, it is. You didn't do that. You didn't think of that. You didn't write that. Like we have apps now that you can literally hum to and it'll do your music for you. You don't even need to play guitar. Half the kids don't. They just play it on their iPad. So I mean, society might be getting more advanced, but in the wrong direction because it's not really the people anymore creating anything. It's the big multi-billionaires that do. And a lot of the foods and things that they're putting, a lot of the chemicals and things that they're putting in the food are actually starting to ruin our ability to even reproduce. People are struggling more and more and more to even have kids, especially in the West. Because of all the bullshit that they put in our foods that's causing issues with our estrogen, with our testosterone. Men have less testosterone now than ever before than their much older counterparts in comparison. And women even now have more testosterone in their bodies than they do estrogen. So you have a majority of women walking around. If you've noticed, I definitely do because I'm a girl, but I'm also a little gay. A lot of girls these days all have little boobies. A majority of girls have little boobies. And like back in the day when I was young, everyone, as soon as you turn 12, everyone had big jumbo tits. So, I mean, I'm starting to see it like in the food, in our diet, like what they're putting, what they're giving us at the end of the day is definitely like, I'm seeing the difference in society, just looking at it with my own eyes and just meeting people. I'm like, oh, there definitely is something going on here. We can't all look this way for no reason.
Yeah.
We can't all be autistic all of a sudden for no reason or all have ADHD for no reason.
Like I know like they linked pork with testosterone like in that sense too. Like I was like reading about it too and like how it kind of has like the effect on like yeah. Yeah. And I mean also with like other foods too because like I know like they'll talk about like pork being acidic and all that too and like shellfish as well too, but I think it's that idea of like crave too because like when you see like that lust of like certain juices and oils too, like that's what kind of connects people to like eating in that sense too. Like that's like the same with like fast food on like what they're creating on what they're recreating because they're using the same oils as they're using like when making pork or like shellfish and all that.
Cross-contamination, yeah.
So
I got cheesed once when I went to a place and they fried my chicken in the same oil that they were frying fish in, and I was like, dog, this chicken wing smells like fish cake. I was not a fan. I was like, what if my homie's allergic? Yeah, anyways, it was a bad day.
Yeah, no, that's facts too. And I mean, as you said too, like I know like with technology, like it has had its like benefits on like what it might do wrong with like other places too, with Chat, GBT and all that too. I mean, there are also ways of some good on like how it could like reproduce society too with Elon Musk's like robots like in that sense too, like on like how like they'll kind of counteract too. I think there is gonna be some ups and downs on that too, but like I'm assuming like it might work in that sense too. I mean,
seen the movie Megan?
Not yet actually.
Okay, it's on Netflix. I won't spoil it for you. Go watch that, and then you tell me if you really want Elon Musk to have robots, because I don't think I want them.
Because like if he did work on like Tesla and like you know like the Cybertruck too, like maybe this might work as well too. But there are like a lot of factors that do come to it, like 5G. Like 5G is like also
seen
like
the movie The Fifth Wave.
I've yet to watch that actually.
You see what happened to all the Teslas?
Yeah.
All the Teslas all of a sudden start self-driving themselves into a fucking wall. I don't want a Tesla. I don't want a Tesla. Yeah. How do I know? At the end of the day, you know, they get consent from us by the shit that they put in movies. Sometimes they give us the most boring movies ever on purpose, just so you fall asleep before you actually like get the consent. But they tell you what they're gonna do. I don't trust a Tesla. I don't trust robots. But I get what you mean. We all love Elon Musk.
Like I don't care about him too, but like I think with some of the ideas, like it might work in that sense too. Like depending on the situation too, but there are like a lot of factors that do come to it too. So yeah. To end off with some like these like other topics too, how do you like deal with your mental health as a person like in your background too? Do you ever feel like with like stuff that you might do or like things going on in the world, like it might be like overwhelming, or do you have like ways to like kind of like solve that?
I smoke weed and I self-isolate. It's the two best things for me. Smoke weed, self-isolate. I've learned a long time ago that I used to give my energy out to a lot of people and I would not get anything back. And then I started learning, I like being alone. This is nice. And I get to smoke my weed and I don't have to share. That means I'm buying less weed. Oh, save money and I'm happy. All of the above. So yes, that's what I usually do when I'm dealing with society. That or I vent a little bit. I'll go on the IG and I'll like post a story and then I'll maybe delete it 2 hours later.
Yeah. I'm sure. And I mean the social media is like very like interesting to like on like what you're posting to with the reels and all that too. So like what makes you consistent like on doing that like every other day? Like just like
I either like to make people laugh on my IG or I just like to keep people informed. I like to share different ideas. A lot of the people on my IG, it's so funny. Like recently I've gotten so many people like unfollowing me, but then I have like 250 like requests. And I'm just like sitting there like, why do they want to follow me? It's a majority of males, which I don't know what they're going to expect. They're going to go to my page, they're going to think I'm like this baddie, and they're going to realize as soon as I open my mouth that I'm insane. And then they're like, I don't know if I want to watch this. There's too little boobs and too much mouth. So yeah, no, I don't know.
For sure. Do you ever have any like regrets in your life overall, or do you regret nothing in that sense?
You know what? I used to have a lot of regrets, but now I have none. Absolutely none. I think the only time I'll have a regret is like in the moment if I say something I probably shouldn't say to someone I love. Then in that moment I'll unsend it or I'll like apologize. In those moments I can say I'll regret something. But when I look at my general life of like how I was brought up, how I dealt with things, me going viral at 15 and like basically thought it was going to ruin my life. Like my lore is deep. My lore is so deep. But ultimately it's what made me who I am today, and I like who I am today. I wouldn't change anything about myself. So, yeah, I have no regrets. I feel like having regrets would just mean I don't like the version of myself I've become from them.
Oh, that's facts. No, I definitely agree too. And like having no regrets is like better, like either way too. You could like focus on the ideas of like what you have, like
Yeah.
what you're grateful for, and
Bingo.
like knowing like what might be best for you too. Like waking up every other day, like with the oxygen, with the hands, the feet, everything else too. Like that's something that you have to like live for and all that too, or like a
Yeah.
purpose in that sense too. And like it's only up from there either way, So
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
yeah, exactly. And do you have any other plans for this year too? Like I know like we're ending 2024 on a interesting note too. Like we're still have like December left too, but like I know like other people like they'll have like music, other stuff going on too. Like I don't know, like what do you have going on next?
Oh my God, I'm just trying to make money. I'm just trying to make money. If I meet the right people, if their energies are right, I'm really into synchronicities and energies and stuff. So I'm just kind of like looking forward to every day because mystery and it's always a gift and stuff. My story's only just beginning. I feel like it's just beginning. But yeah.
Oh, that's facts. And Jen, like I just want to say thank you for like coming by and all that
Thank
too.
you so
Like
much for having me.
yeah, like I know like usually too, like I want to connect with like a lot of people too, like get to know them too, like get
Totally.
to understand them, and just having you on, like I think it's like a different like breath of like fresh air from what I usually have and all that too. Like I think like the idea of like having like these like open ended like discussions, it's like something that I really like needed to like to kind of understand like different realities, like different worlds too, and like hopefully I'll have you
Sick.
back in like a certain like lifetime and all that too. So
You'll be like Seth Rogen in no time.
another like Joe Rogan.
Oh,
type
Joe
of-
Rogan, thank you. There you go.
Yeah,
See, I'm so bad. I don't even know.
yeah.
You'll be like
Yeah,
Joe
like
Rogan in no time.
having something like that too. It'll be interesting. I
That'd be
watch
lit,
like
dude.
Joe like Rogan all the time. So like not all the time, but like whenever I have the time too. So
I know
having
some pretty unique characters I can get you connected with if you want unique characters. Trust.
yeah, that's facts. Nah, we'll definitely connect either way. So
Totally, boss.
But this is Josh, also known as Yashu. Another episode of TLOY Talks. You can
Nice.
get this on all platforms:
I'm such a millennial.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Buzzsprout, much more. Check out the Patreon like tiers that we have. We usually have like a lot of like dope tiers. Any tier can get you like exclusive content, much more. Any connectivities from me, any connectivities with other people around you, like behind the scenes too. And yeah, definitely like check that out. And this is
Give
Josh.
him your money.
This is like Josh, also known as Yashu, with Jen on the TLOY Talks podcast, signing off.